takeoff. Modified max performance takeoff gets done from a hover. It also just uses hover power, 21 inches, right? So look through the yaw strings at the ground.
Yeah, we're still out here, 76 Victor.
Victor.
And right here, we pass through ETL, nose comes up. Make sure you're in trim.
Check 2 is altitude, and proceed straight to 27.
And we don't speed up more than, like, say, 35 knots. Because what we're trying to do is climb. You notice how, like, we got through ETL and you needed quite a bit of right pedal?
Yeah.
So we're going to come around, do a steep approach. And I want you to practice that modified max performance takeoff. That's the takeoff you need to be able to do out of Civic.
Okay.
All right? And so what we did today when we left Civic was the modified max performance takeoff, right? You see, we have to get through ETL and then the nose has to come up.
Okay.
And you cannot push forward.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to come around, do a steep approach. Base leg should be lined up with the windsock.
And runway Foxtrot, remain this frequency, and runway 27.
Right. So this would be too steep.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to let it get a little bit steeper. So we have 30 knots.
Summer Tower,
Okay.
carry on 11 Lima Alpha.
And we're going to look over at the 8. And this is a steep approach angle.
Yeah.
It can be even steeper than this. Sometimes it will have to be steeper than this, all right? If we're doing off-airport operation, it might be steeper than this. When we go to Civic Pad, it's steeper than this. But for here today, this is good enough.
11 to the east.
So look at the H. It should feel like we are on a straight line. So do you see how I cannot move the cyclic so much, right?
Yes.
You know how much you move the cyclic for the normal approach?
Yeah.
We cannot move the cyclic that much.
I'll get you in.
More of your descent is controlled by your collective. That's why a steep approach is harder.
Right down 127, we'll...
So that's one of the reasons.
Skyline 85 and down.
Skyline 76 X-ray.
And forward and down. Forward and down. Look in front of your feet at the ground. Okay?
Yeah.
So you're going to pick it up, do a modified max performance takeoff.
Yes.
After you have 1600, right, because we're at 14, so after you have 1600, speed up and do like a normal traffic pattern, come around, do a steep approach.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, you got it. All right, we're already light on the skid, side's outside. Don't move forward right away, just come up to a hover.
Skyline 85.
Come up to like a 3 to 5 foot hover, a little bit more than a meter high. Okay, modified max performance takeoff. So push forward.
Altitude is...
Yep, just push forward. Get through ETL. You have to be able to get through ETL. All right, nose up. You need some right pedal. As soon as you pass through ETL, a little too much.
Yes.
As soon as you pass through ETL, you don't need as much left pedal anymore, and you need to make sure you have enough right pedal. Okay, keep on maintaining this 40 knots or so until you have like 1600.
Skyline 9 Romeo Foxtrot.
All right, and then go ahead and speed up. So, crosswind should not be too early. There should be lined up with that tree.
Get far side here, Tango is number 1, runway 27.
Okay, look ahead at the tree.
Touch and go.
275 Sierra Tango.
Okay, look at that edge of trees. You have your traffic pattern altitude, right?
Yeah.
So start lowering the collective.
Currently 7,500.
You probably need to lower it to like 16, or you're going to keep climbing. Left cyclic. Left cyclic and right pedal.
Please repeat.
More left cyclic. We need to be on the left side of those two little trees.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a steep approach. 1700, downwind of beam. Okay, look at the windsock, turn base.
Cherokee 19er, enter right downwind, runway 27, report to beam the tower.
Right, this is your steep approach.
427, we'll report beam tower 819er, thank you.
Yeah, use your pedals.
Alpha, resume normal speed.
11 Lima Alpha, thank you, sir.
Good, look over at the H, look in front of you.
Yes.
Yeah, keep it steep, keep it going.
Tower, Skyline 85 Hotel, still negative on traffic.
Skyline 5 Hotel, you still faster, mile and a half ahead, you can turn left.
And it should be a straight line,
85 Hotel, right down one.
our angle.
Archer 76 Victor, fixed change route.
Yep, up collected left pedal, down collected right pedal. You have a little too much right cyclic.
Ramona Tower, how do you hear? 819er?
819er, loud and clear.
All right, roger that. Thank you much, 819er.
This is 50 Yankee number 2, follow the Kit Fox on a very close in left base, runway 27, clear touch and go.
Yeah, 50 Yankees, clear number 2.
Okay, so this is a little shallow at the end,
Yeah.
but go ahead, set it down.
Meter high. No good.
After this touch and go, 50 Yankee,
meter high.
right turn out to the north.
This is 50 Yankee, after touch and go, fly runway heading, I'll call the north turn.
50 Yankees.
Okay. All right, so
Attention all aircraft.
let's do
2995.
another
In the wind,
modified max performance takeoff.
Yes.
And now we're gonna go do something called a high recon.
Ramona Tower, Skyhawk 9 Fox 5, short approach.
Centurion 1 Lima Alpha, call your base.
Centurion 11 Lima Alpha, thank you, sir.
Okay. That's a little bit more than a meter high. Okay. Look through the yaw strings at the ground.
Yes.
Push, get through ETL. Push.
Romeo Fox 2, right 360, kind of a shallow
Okay,
one.
now,
So I'll let you know when
nose
you're
up,
on.
nose up, more.
69 Romeo Fox 5.
Pull back more. And get yourself there
Turn base.
and maintain.
50 Yankee, turn to base.
So, something you should notice when you come back to this video is
Yeah.
you didn't even actually have to pull back more, right?
Okay.
But after you got yourself in trim, your airspeed increased, even though you were pulling back on the cyclic or in the nose change. That's showing you how much of a difference it makes to be in trim.
Yes.
Because when you are not in trim, I'm coming on the controls with you. When you are not in trim, you have a lot of extra drag, and that's going to make your takeoff bad,
Okay.
right? And it's going to make your rate of climb
Turn final,
bad.
runway 27 clear.
So we're going to do a high recon, a high reconnaissance, all right? A high reconnaissance is to determine a suitability of a landing spot
Yeah.
and also
85 Hotel, I'll call your
your
base.
path in, path out, whether or not you can do it, etc. So you see that dirt spot right there?
Yeah.
Cherokee 19.
All right, there's a bird. Just
I'll
wait.
call your base.
Roger that.
There's a lot of birds. Okay, so look at that dirt spot.
Yeah.
We're going to do a high recon. So we do something called swap in the high recon, all right?
Okay.
And S stands for site,
Right 360.
and we have to decide if the site is suitable.
Yes.
Okay, so we look at the size. So that dirt spot, it's big enough. Shape doesn't really matter. I mean, the shape isn't something that would stop us from landing there.
Yes.
Surface, it's dirt, so we're not going to land there, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you'd have to think about if the dirt would get blown up and give yourself brownout. Because in the military, if you go to like a sandy, dusty environment, that's caused like fatal accidents.
Okay.
Because they go in there to the dust and they can't see, right? Slope,
91 Fox.
we're not actually landing there, it doesn't really matter. But if it was something that was too sloped, then you may not go there anyway, okay?
Yeah.
So overall, that site is suitable.
Yes.
Then you want to look at wind, okay?
Yeah.
So wind, we know it's from the west because there's a windsock.
Yes.
You know, if you look at some of the grass on the ground, you might be able to see it blowing,
Yeah.
okay? The other way you would know is if you were to do a turnabout a point, right? So you see this distance we're maintaining right now? We're not turning very steep.
Yeah.
As we come around, if we want to maintain that same distance,
Yeah.
when we're downwind of the spot, we have to turn much steeper.
Okay.
So it feels like the wind is kind of more from the southwest,
Yes.
okay?
For Cherokee 19.
And that's all you would do. You wouldn't be like the wind is coming from 240 at 10 knots because you heard that on the ATIS, right?
Yeah.
You would just say the wind is coming from the southwest,
Yes.
okay?
85 Hotel, turn base, and make a square turn to final.
O is for obstacles and options, okay?
Yeah.
It's a pinnacle, so there's not really a lot of obstacles. There's some obstacles on the ground, like those bushes, those big rocks, which are called boulders.
Yeah.
All right. Options. You have lots of options because other than that pinnacle, it's actually wide open. All right.
Yeah.
But if there were obstacles, then you'd have to think about what your emergency operations are. P is path in and path out. So path in should be, we start from the east, we go towards the west. Okay.
Yes.
And then power, we would look at the temperature is 32 degrees. And look up at your chart, right?
Yeah.
So 30 degrees, maybe 30 degrees and 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
So 22.5 would be our max continuous. 23.4 would be our takeoff power.
Yes.
Okay. So then the way you kind of do another power check is you come and you do an approach.
Yeah.
And what you want to do is you set up the approach. It's a steep approach.
Yeah.
And you get yourself 300 feet per minute rate of descent
Yes.
and about 30 knots of indicated airspeed. All right? So I'm going to come from a little bit east of the trees so we have a longer time to make this profile happen.
Yes, Turkey 3, correction for Turkey 819, you're number 3, following the Skylane on a 2-mile final, not the...
So we're looking at the hill.
Order site, please.
All right, I'm number 3 for 27. Are you still going to call my base 819?
So
If you don't get the Skylane in sight...
30 knots,
All right, let me get that.
300 feet per minute rate of descent. All right. We're using about 12 inches of manifold pressure.
Yes.
Of course.
All right, and we're less than 30 knots, which means we should be using more because we have less translational lift.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I got the Skyline.
right, if we're coming down 30 knots, 300 feet per minute,
And Roger, follow that...
we're using 13 inches. 1/3 of 13 inches is only like 4.5, so we know that we can hover over there, okay?
Okay.
And then there's a couple of different kinds of low recons. So one low recon, the most conservative one, is to come to 100 feet above the highest obstacle
Yes.
and just hold an out-of-ground effect hover.
50
Okay.
Tango looking.
So as you get here and you slow down to the hover, you better start raising the collective to your hover power, right?
Yes.
Alpha.
So if you are able to hover 100 feet out-of-ground effect, right, 100 feet high out-of-ground effect,
If you haven't already...
you would definitely be able to hover down there.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the most conservative low recon. A less conservative low recon is basically, we do that same approach, right? We come down 300 feet a minute, 30 knots,
Yeah.
slow down to about like 20 knots, so we're just above VTL,
Runway 27.
and then we raise the collective up to 21, 22 inches and see if we can get a 500 foot per minute climb.
Yeah.
All right. So this is another, it's not as conservative, but sometimes you don't want to come to an out-of-ground effect hover just because it's super windy or something. So
Good day.
Roger, Yankee.
Skylane 85 Hotel, where do you park again?
Going to Pacific, Jim.
Skylane 85 Hotel, taxi to Pacific via Alpha, remain in this frequency.
the way you do it
You have a great day. Skyline 85.
is you get your 300 feet per minute rate of descent going. You have your 30 knots. Okay. Maintain this. You have all the controls.
I have
Maintain
a-
30 knots.
Yeah.
You need 30 knots. Or a little bit less. Okay. So you see how we're less than 30 knots, so it's using more power. Use your pedals. Don't let the nose yaw when you're doing this.
Okay.
Okay. So right around here, raise the collective up to 21 inches. Be really coordinated about it. Left pedal. You need a little bit of forward speed. It's not going to climb at like 30 knots, right? So you see how you got a little bit of forward speed and it's climbing nicely.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the less conservative low recon.
Yeah.
Okay, so then after you do all of that, you would go back in for your actual approach. So we're going to make the actual, we can't land out here.
Yeah.
So we're going to make our actual approach to South Helipad, and it needs to be a steep approach. So come over here. When you're on base,
Yeah.
you should be about 45 knots. Okay. And then look over at the H.
And Ramona, power got on
And we should be starting to slow down
for traffic work.
and get that
compression.
3 to 500 feet per minute rate of descent.
Yes.
Yep.
Cherokee 19 Alpha 3, please
Okay.
cross the line.
And managing it. That rumbling right there, that is the rotor disc passing in and out of ETL and transverse flow effect.
Yes.
All right? You need to be able to recognize this as different from vortex ring state,
Okay.
which we're going to go over in a second.
Okay, hey, my first time here. Where
So look over at the H.
819er, thank you.
And they moved it. If you want restrooms, there's some straight ahead.
And we have 300 feet per minute, a little bit less than 30 knots,
Right turn out.
but we want to keep it steep.
All right, so restrooms are different than the transient parking. 819er.
Okay, so work the pedals.
There's a porta john at the transient.
Yeah.
Or restrooms. They have
You need some left cyclic.
Your choice.
Okay, got it. Yeah, the
There you go.
John's fine. All right, Mickey.
Keep it steep, keep it steep.
Yeah.
819er.
Cherokee 19, that's correct. And then it'll be
Keep it steep.
you're past the tower.
No moving the cyclic too much. Use the pedals. Keep yourself perfectly in trim. Don't ever let the nose yaw.
Go back out somewhere, like for flight follow-on.
Okay?
I'm here for about 5 hours, and then I'll be leaving later tonight around 6.
Okay? And then go ahead and set it down.
All right, perfect. And then do you guys have a crew car,
Forward and
or an
down.
airport car, or anything like that? 819er.
I don't think there's any of those on the airport.
Forward and down, forward and
Getting an Uber or somebody to pick you up.
No. Do you, like, if you were to get a video of your hands, right? You're moving the cyclic a lot.
Yes.
No, that
It should be like
really doesn't. And keep
half.
going, and they'll see the tower.
1/3 to half that much movement.
Yes.
Okay? So,
Keep going past.
all right. The last thing we're going to do is the true max performance takeoff, right? Max performance takeoff, you need to know if you can do it. The way you would know if you can do it is we looked at the charts, right?
Yeah.
And we said 22.5 is max continuous, 23.4 is takeoff power. So,
Everything went up so fast.
we use 21 inches to hover. If we take 10% of that, how much is that?
No, you can mark
Benny,
past the
Benny,
porta johns if you like. There's a lot of
2.1.
markings out
How
there.
much?
You can park anywhere, actually.
2.1
Okay, I'll
It's
go.
2.1. So 2.1 plus 21 is how much?
to 3.1.
So, in theory, we should be able to do this max performance takeoff because the manifold pressure chart says we can use 3.4, right? So you need at least,
Left turn out.
you need so much power to hover.
Yeah.
Obviously, you would need more than that to take off vertically.
Okay.
How much more? Well, at least 10%.
Yeah. 10%.
Okay? So, we're not going to stop at the hover.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you are in the wind when you do this. So we're going to pick it up. Turn left. It looks like it's a slight right crosswind.
Yeah.
So we're going to set it back down because we don't stop at the hover for the max performance takeoff. The vertical max performance takeoff has no stop at a hover because when you hover, that gives time for your induced flow to catch up and become your induced drag, right? So we need to climb fast enough to outrun our own downwash, all right? But we're not going to just yank up to 23.4.
Okay.
We're just going to try to come up at around 200-300 feet a minute, all right? So this is what it should look like. Eyes inside until we're light on the skids. And then we come up and just keep on coming up. Look at the yaw strings.
Yeah.
You want the yaw strings to be standing up. So you see that? We're using 23 inches.
Yes.
We're climbing 200, almost 300 feet a minute.
Yeah.
We're not at 23.4, right?
Yeah.
And this is all we needed, okay? We have over 100 feet AGL. We're clear of our obstacles, which you should be able to say, and then we're going to continue.
Okay.
Okay? So you have all the controls.
I have all the controls.
Yep, you have all the controls. Go. And I'm just going to show you everything today, all right? I want you to go back and watch the video and then practice these things with Ziki and Danica and other people.
Yeah.
Okay?
422, Charlie Mike, come on a tower, into the right down on runway 27.
This is a day where the wind is strong, right?
Yes.
The stronger the wind, the steeper the approach you can actually do. Why? Because all of that wind is extra translational lift.
Yes.
Right? So the more translational lift you have, the less engine lift you need to make the same thing happen.
Okay.
And your
All right.
request.
So we're going to do a true steep approach this time.
Yes.
It's going to be really steep because it's going to have a higher rate of descent, right?
Okay.
So you see we're coming up over here. Normally traffic pattern altitude would be 1700. We're coming up to 1800 for this one.
Number 127.
So we're 100 feet higher. Now look over at the windsock. We're going to turn base. And we have to make sure we do start coming down. So look at where the helipad is.
Yes.
Relative to the yaw strings and the compass, like how high it is.
Yeah.
When we roll out of this turn, okay? So this is where you're looking at what that approach angle should look like.
Yep.
The tighter and shorter you turn, the steeper the approach angle, right? So we want to square this turn to final. We have 400 feet per minute rate of descent, 30 knots, that's fine. And do you feel I'm not moving the cyclic a lot, right?
Yes.
But I am moving the collective. Every time I move the collective, I move the pedals. Look over at the H. And we're going to go forward and down from here. So you see the high rate of descent, more than 300 feet per minute.
Yes.
But we're not super concerned because even though we have 0 airspeed indicated and we're descending 300 feet per minute, we're still only using 17 inches.
Yes.
17, 1/3 of 17 is like 5.6. 17 plus 5.6 is 22.6.
Yeah.
So that means we should have the power. And as you get closer to the ground, you bring in more power, you arrest that descent, you keep it in trim,
Yeah.
and you go forward and down. I want a copy of this video
Yeah.
when you have it finalized. And we're going to go forward and down. Okay?
2 Charlie Mike, beam of the tower.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's what it should look like. So you're going to do max performance takeoff
Yes.
and
I'll call your base.
safe approach.
Yes.
You're following a kit fox.
So, eyes inside, so we're light on the skids. Then it's straight up. You should be looking, keeping us between the 2 solid lines.
Yep.
Look to your right a little bit. Yeah, make sure you're not moving forward too much. Okay,
2 Charlie Mike,
good. Keep on coming up. Yeah.
That's the 2 Charlie Mike.
Left pedal. As the nose keeps coming up, left pedal, left pedal. All right, and then look at the yaw strings. Hold it steady. Look at the yaw strings. Maybe some right pedal. See how that? Yeah, too much, too much.
Yeah.
Look. Right, the yaw strings are a little bit. And you see how every time you get in trim, the nose comes up on its own and you climb better.
Yeah.
That's because every time you reduce the drag, it's better.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So, come on, trim. You shouldn't descend, right? The max performance takeoff, it's to get out from behind an obstacle, and then there should not be any descent.
Yes.
A little too early, but okay.
Cessna 9 Romeo Foxtrot, frequency change approved. Good day.
This would be kind of early.
Yeah.
See you later. I know my God.
Climb to 2008.
Yep. Then just keep your speed up. Okay. So, collective has to go down to not climb.
Yeah.
Right, so look at the windsock, turn. Yeah, doesn't have to go down as much as it would go down for a normal approach.
Yeah.
Turn. Roll out. Okay, so continue to slow down.
Ramona Tower, Skylane 9031 uniform. Stand descending. Request.
Skyline 9031 uniform, Ramona Tower, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Are you not taking pattern work today?
Yeah, right now I'm not too busy, so I can let you in. Skyline 31 uniform.
Okay, a little bit steeper.
Report 2 miles southeast.
Okay, roger. We'll report left, enter left base, report 2 miles southeast for your uniform. Thank you.
Cessna 2 Charlie Mike, see taxi request.
Yeah, we're going down to truck calls.
Cessna 2 Charlie Mike.
Raise the collective
truck
some.
call, this frequency.
Always be ready with that left pedal.
2 Charlie Mike.
off.
Oh.
We're gonna do vortex ring state, okay?
Yes.
So vortex ring state is what happens if you don't figure out where the wind is from,
Yeah.
okay? So we know the wind is coming from the west or southwest. We're gonna go towards that hill as if we thought the wind was coming from the east.
Okay, Fox 5.
So this is an example of how you guys have to be very careful,
Yes.
right? When you are talking through your high recon,
Okay.
you know, from and to are different, right? If it's coming from the west to the east, it's a different approach that you would take than if it's, you know, from the east, right? So, what we're gonna do, get high enough, get 1700. And we're gonna have to do the Vishard maneuver, which is right cyclic, raise the collective, left pedal, all at the same time, all coordinated, maintaining our heading, okay? So we come around over here, and we get our 30 knots, 300 feet per minute rate of descent, like we're going towards that spot. Don't pull right just yet.
Yep.
Feel that? So there. Feel how it falls?
Yep.
So we gotta raise the collective, right bank, left pedal, maintain the heading,
Yep.
get out of it. You feel how suddenly it lifted?
Yeah.
That's how you know you got out of it.
Okay.
Because that's when the advancing blade has reached the upward flowing part, right? The vortex ring is like this.
Yes.
The advancing blade was in the downward part, now it's in the upward part and it really picks up. Did you notice how hard I have to work to maintain the heading?
Yes.
Right? So we're going to do this again. I'm going to help you with everything but the pedals.
Yes.
Okay? You got to maintain the heading.
North, square base to final turn, please.
Sure thing. Flying north, square my base, final turn for uniform.
Skyhawk 64256. Hold short runway
Okay.
27.
We're going to get into it a little bit quicker
Yep.
so that it happens higher so you have more time, okay?
Yes.
So we're going to look at the little hill.
Helicopter 703 on November. How much longer are you going to be on the south helipad?
Probably like 5-10 minutes. We can go.
You say you can go?
5 minutes, 39 November.
Helicopter 3 on November.
Okay,
Roger.
recover.
South helipad, clear to land, then I'll get you going here shortly.
39 November. South helipad, clear to land.
Helicopter 74110, remote atomic west arrival to the south helipad. Report to west.
Okay. We'll go do more vortex ring state out there.
Yeah.
10.
Stallion is coming in.
Lane 31 uniform. There'll be one departure prior to your arrival. Runway 27. Quick touch and go. Then make
Okay, so we're going to do an auto rotation.
Go,
Okay.
27, then left close traffic after that for uniform.
So, what's deeper than a steep approach? An auto rotation,
Yes.
right? So that's when you're too high.
Okay. 3 on November. Instead of landing, can you just cross the runway now, northbound, and then I'll get you going northwest shortly.
Affirmative. We'll cross the runway now. We have the traffic on final side expediting.
Thank you. Star 256, fly runway heading. I'm sorry, disregard that. Just hold short runway 27. I'll get you going here shortly.
No worries, hold short 27.
Okay. We'll go back to that one. And 39 November, should we just depart northwest?
Look up to 3 on November. You may go northwest now. Thank you.
39 November, we'll go, thanks. Just PSTCR, go home.
Okay.
Head towards home.
Or 10.
We'll do vortex ring state out there over
Yes.
Lake Hodges.
Okay.
Actually, Tower 39 November, could we turn direct north from here and just depart north?
Look up to 3 on November. Affirmative. Thank you.
39 November, turning north, thank you. We're gonna actually go do one off airport.
Okay.
So just go straight
Yes.
and stay here, 22, 23. Work those pedals. so the high recon should be done 300 to 500 feet above a pinnacle. All right?
How much feet?
300 to 500.
Okay.
All right? So do you see that hill right there?
256.
Yes, I see.
It's kind of reddish,
Yeah.
12 o'clock. So go towards it. You want to be on the left side of it
Yes.
so you can make a right orbit.
Okay.
So stay down here around 2,300. Lower the collective. We don't want to collect.
Yeah.
Right pedal. Really hold the cyclic steady.
Yeah.
Come on down. 2,300.
5676 Victor, just over Poway, 3,500 request rate eastbound transition.
Okay. Got to lower the collective enough to come down.
Tower, transitions approved. Altitude your discretion. Are you going northeast or eventually south?
We're just going to go straight east towards 20 for 76 Victor.
Archer 76 Victor, roger. Remain at or above 3,500.
We're above 3,500 Archer 76 Victor.
Keep your speed up. 70 knots.
Kit Fox 50 Tango, Roma 27, clear touch and go.
750 Tango.
From our west, 10.
Helicopter 810, south helipad, cleared for the option, and then make the left close traffic, preventive control via letter of agreement.
South helipad, clear for the option. Left perfect for the
Okay, so you see that hilltop?
Yes.
There's like a yellow grassy area. That's all dried grass. We're not actually going to land.
We got that.
Yeah.
We're not actually going to land there, okay?
Yes.
But we're going to do a high recon
Base now available.
50 Tango.
Skyline through.
and an approach
Kit Fox
to a high hover.
27, clear touch and go.
Roger, clear touch go 27 number 2 behind the Kit Fox, 3 with uniform.
So that hill is around 1,900 feet. This is about 400 feet.
Okay.
400 to 500. Those were probably actually high, so don't climb anymore, right? You need to be low enough and close enough that you can actually see,
Yes.
right? So, look at the size. Do you think it's big enough over there?
Yeah.
All right. Shape,
It's circle.
nothing special, right?
Nothing special.
Surface,
Little dirt,
it's dried grass.
dry grass.
So we do not go land over there because
Oh.
it could start a fire.
Yeah.
All right. Slope. Do you think it's flat enough for you to land?
Not flat.
Okay, so it's too sloped, right? So it's
Yeah.
not really suitable for landing, but we're just going to use it for an approach.
Okay.
Wind. Where do you think the wind is coming from?
I think it is coming from 11 o'clock.
There.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't use this right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because the compass is not accurate. So right here, it feels like you got really close. And then here, it feels like it's time to turn steep. So it means the wind is right behind us, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that the 2 points where you turn the steepest
Yes.
and then change your bank, those
Yeah.
are the 2 points where you're downwind or directly upwind, right?
Yeah.
Here, you're having to bank steep, but it's to maintain your ground track. So, yeah, probably from that direction, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Obstacles,
Nothing special.
it's terrain, right?
It's
So,
terrain.
since the wind is from that direction, that means we have to come from the northeast towards the southwest. So, you see the ground is higher,
Yeah.
right? Northeast to southwest. So, the obstacle is the terrain. It
Yeah.
must be a steep approach. Options,
Frequency change approved.
not a lot of options,
Yeah.
right? Not a lot of options.
Helicopter 39 November, also frequency change approved. Thanks for your help.
Yeah, remember, thank you. So we're going to go northeast. Okay, so path in, path out is northeast to southwest.
Okay.
Power, all right, this is almost 2,000 feet, 30 degrees. We know from doing it earlier, right?
Yes.
It's 22.5 max continuous,
Yes.
23.4 takeoff power.
Yes.
So we're going to fly away. And what you need to do is look at it
Yes.
and pick things out here. Obviously, I've been here before, so I know like what northeast looks like, right?
Yeah.
But you need to look at all the things and sort of say, okay, if I had a rectangular traffic pattern
Yes.
where where would, I turn from like downwind to base and base to final, right?
Okay.
So you see these rocks around here?
Yes.
We're going to turn base just over or past the rocks.
Yep.
Okay? And then look at a hill or something over there so that you know what 90 degrees looks like and you don't turn more than 90 degrees.
Yes.
Okay? So here we are, we've turned base, and then we need to roll out. Now look at the hill, it's time to turn final, right?
Yes.
So look over at the hill. We have our 2,300 feet, and we're going to come in and do a steep approach. And we'll just do... we're just going to go in. We're just going to go in. But you could come to 100 feet above the highest obstacle and hold the hover.
Yes.
So this is where it really matters that you know what a steep approach looks like.
Okay.
Right? So we're going to get closer because if we start descending now, we'll be too shallow.
Yes.
And we'll be on the leeward side of the mountain or the hillside, and it's going to be very turbulent, right?
Okay.
When you have a lot of wind and a pinnacle, you need to come in steep so you stay out of the downwash of the mountain.
Okay.
On the leeward side.
Yes.
So we're looking at our spot, which we can't even see because it's hidden by the terrain.
Yep.
So now that you're here, you can tell it is in fact an obstacle, correct?
Yes.
So now we have 45 knots, 500 feet per minute rate of descent, and we're okay with 500 feet per minute rate of descent
Yep.
at that distance, at this distance and this speed.
Yep.
Okay, but now as we raise the collective and try to get just 30 knots and 300 feet per minute rate of descent,
Yes.
does it still look okay? Yeah, because 30 knots, right? But you have to keep it in trim. 30 knots, 300 feet per minute rate of descent. It's using 14 to 15 inches.
Yep.
Okay? So, come on, work on those pedals. Don't let it yaw. Look at the yaw string. Keep us in trim. And when it's windy like this, you have to work harder.
Clear touch go.
Alright, we gotta keep on coming down. Don't pull to the right. See all the birds right there? So we
Yep.
cannot like suddenly do something.
Yep.
Right? Why are we going to the right, Jack Young?
Cause
Come on. No, the wind's from over here.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it may look like a little bit, but don't let it just yaw to the right without your intent, right?
Yes.
So come on down here. Okay, we're not going to come in, but raise the collective. 21 inches. 21. Left pedal. Left pedal when we raise the collective. And we should get 500 feet per minute rate of climb soon.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
So as we got closer, you're right. The wind was more from the west than southwest.
Yes.
All right, so if we were going to do that, we would do that differently, right? Make sure that we come in from an angle that lets us be more into the wind,
Yep.
right? Because if we come from over here, then we're flying almost sideways.
Yes.
But if we come from more over there, then it's more straight and into the wind.
Okay.
So we'll go over there. 2,200, so you have to be aware of your altitude and
Yes.
what are the appropriate altitudes for your approach.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to fly towards that hill and just stay at this altitude.
Yeah.
When you're doing off-airport operations, one of the most common mistakes people make is they're in too much of a hurry to go back to land.
Oh, okay.
And they don't get far enough away,
Yep.
and they end up being way too steep.
Okay.
All right? This should be far enough for us, though, right? Use your pedals. Okay? Now, do like a right 180 turn.
Right one. Yep.
Yep. Because we can't go any further south. We're probably already in Ramona airspace.
Yep.
So look ahead of your turn. Okay, roll out. So you don't want to descend too early yet, right?
Yep.
Because if you get stuck underneath, you may not have the power to overcome that. So
Yep.
keep us steep.
Get back to 5-0 Tango number 1, Roman 27, clear touch go.
27, 50 Tango.
Okay, now, all right, look at it.
Yep.
Start getting yourself on a descent
Yes.
and getting that 30 knots or so. Work those pedals, right? The less the nose yaws, the better this approach is going to be.
Yes.
So you see how we're still doing 30 knots, coming down at 300-400 feet a minute, but it's only taking us 12 inches.
Yes.
So this should be reassuring that we have enough power to do this.
Okay.
But you see how that rate of descent suddenly increased, right?
Yes.
You have to be on top of that, right? Be aware of your rate of descent, and don't let that rate of increase get worse,
Okay.
right? It shouldn't get bigger than 500 without you wanting it to be bigger than 500.
Yes.
Okay, so look. It going nice and steep. Right, so this is where the terrain was an obstacle.
Yes.
So you see how you cannot be shallow on this one, right?
Yep.
If you're shallow on this one, you're going to put your tail in a bush.
Yes.
So go forward. And you can just hold the hover here for like a minute. Yeah, don't climb. Okay, so you know you can hover down there, all right?
Yeah.
So let's go. Forward cyclic. Keep it in trim. Push pedal.
Right pedal.
Okay. All right, and then make sure you're climbing. Don't hit any birds.
Yep. Or 20.
So, yep. Let yourself climb, because now we're downwind of that hillside. And if you don't get above,
Cleared.
it's going to push us down.
Okay, short approach approved. We'll take it. We got the kid box in sight. Little close touch go